say this again. Being body positive is not an excuse to neglect your health.
I've seen other people stitch your video, and they were much nicer to you than I'm going to be. You have no idea who I am, so let me introduce myself. I am an exercise physiologist, which means I hold a degree in this field, a certification in this field, and have been a professional in this field for a decade. In fact, one of my jobs was actually managing a gym where I hired, trained, and fired personal trainers just like you. And I mean that literally. You're not special. A thin, white, young, able-bodied personal trainer is quite literally a dime a dozen, especially ones with such spicy takes like fat, bad, unhealthy, you need lose weight with exercise, me make you, and a significant misunderstanding of body positivity on top of it. I need you to start wrapping your head around the idea that people can pursue fitness without a weight loss goal, including fat people. Your attitude and approach is exactly what keeps a lot of people away from fitness. Good luck on your exam.
She literally said nothing about half of this? Why are you putting words in her mouth? She was very polite and respectful.
That's good, not focusing on weight loss, but fat loss is important.
Wow, I think you were reading way too much into what she said.
Why can't I understand what she said wrong?
Today, we're diving deep into the dangerous world of visceral fat, the silent killer lurking within our bodies. You may not see it, but it's wreaking havoc on your health.
This is why I choose to be fat. Stay with me. It's because of this. I get a lot of comments saying, oh, just lose weight. It's so easy. Just eat less, just exercise more, whatever. But the thing is, research shows, and this is what this article is about, that most people, the vast majority of people, about like 90 to 95%, they initially lose weight in the short term, and then within a few years, they gain it back. The reason for this is that, and I quote, we are very efficient biological machines. We evolved not to lose weight. We evolved to keep on as much weight as we possibly can.
And that is your excuse to not even try? But if you don't go back to your old habits, will you regain the weight anyhow?
And I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, but what about health? What about your health? The thing is, all of these health behaviors like eating well, eating a variety of foods, vegetables, exercising regularly, they're all actually good for you. They actually work. They just aren't going to make you thin, in most cases.
But do you practice any of that? And eating well won't make you lose weight? We have different definition for eating well.
But the irony is, the things that I was doing to try to make myself skinny, those things were not healthy. And not everybody can be healthy. I mean, arguably, I can't be healthy because I have PCOS and it's a chronic condition. But I can still do healthy behaviors if I want. And here's the thing that nobody tells you about being fat. The worst parts of it are other people's judgments of you. But another thing nobody tells you is that there are actually a lot of parts of being fat that are fine. There are a lot of ways in which I, as a fat person, am living a completely normal life. I have friends, I have family, I post on the internet, I go outside, I go to concerts, I go to movies, I have a boyfriend, I'm normal. I'm just a person who happens to be fat.
You will have judgment when all you post about is fat content.
And the reason that I don't choose to diet is because, one, I know it doesn't work, and two, I already have a good life, except for people's cruel judgments of me. And so what I would rather do is work to change those judgments instead of doing things that probably aren't going to work long term and that actually are pretty bad for your health. I don't have any attachment to being fat. If I were to lose weight for an unintentional reason, I wouldn't care. But I'm not willing to put myself through the diet ringer again just to most likely gain the weight back in a few years. I found this article and many other sources through my TikTok friend Fran, who is a scientist and just came on my podcast. So if you want to know more about how size relates to things like diabetes, stroke, heart attack, check that out. We go into detail on all of it.
Of course we want easier life and don't want to leave our comfort zone, but obesity makes your life harder long term.
I mean, of course dieting doesn't work. As a fat man losing weight, it requires me to radically change how I approach food fundamentally.
Health does not equal size.
So, what exactly is visceral fat? Unlike the fat you can pinch on your skin, visceral fat is the dangerous fat that wraps around your organs deep within your abdomen. Think of it as an unseen predator, quietly sabotaging your health.
Well, why don't you just become thin then so that you can get thin privilege?
Maybe because I shouldn't have to change my body for other people to treat me well?
Why do you always complain about being fat?
I don't complain about being fat. Not once have I ever complained about my body.
Yeah, you have. Your entire profile is that.
No, it's not. I like the way that I look, and I have no intention or want to become thin. I have no issue with my body right now.
Then why do you always talk about thin privilege and fat phobia?
Because I'm treated differently based on my body.
Maybe it's not because of your body.
Then change your body.
What do you not get? I don't need to change my body for other people for them to treat me well. I should be able to exist in my current body now and still receive basic human respect.
Yeah, but you're fat.
So you think because I'm fat, I deserve to be mistreated?
Well, yeah, fat's a choice. Fat consequences. Woo!
Really? You're just like proving my entire point.
If you want to be treated well, then just get thin.
So you really think that I should change my body in order for other people to treat me well instead of those other people unlearning their fat phobia and realizing that thin privilege exists?
Yeah, it's not our problem.
You're the one mistreating me, though.
Well, then don't be fat if you don't want to be mistreated.
Alrighty.
Studies have shown that excess visceral fat is linked to a myriad of health issues, including heart disease, type 2 diabetes, stroke, and even certain cancers. It's not just about looking good, it's about staying alive and thriving.
This commenter wants to know what I mean when I say fat competent, because based on their comment, it's very clear that they don't understand. Oftentimes when I say fat competent, what people think I mean is that the doctors are not nice to me, which is just very plainly like not what that means. And if you actually listen to my words, you would hear that I separate fat competent and fat friendly, which very clearly makes a distinction between competency with our bodies and friendly, meaning nice to us. And while yes, a lot of the issues many fat people have with doctors is that we go to the doctor and they are actively hostile. They are not kind or friendly or nice or whatever it is. That's actually the least of my concern. So kind practitioners are part of what keeps people coming back to the doctor. So if I were a doctor, I would want to be kind to my patients. But as I said, that's not really my primary concern, because inadequate care or at worst medical neglect with a smile on your face is still inadequate care and medical neglect. In that video, I was talking about vaccines. And when I said fat competent, what I mean is knowing that for most larger bodied people, you need to use a longer needle to give the injection. There are nurses and nurse practitioners and doctors who do not know this, meaning that I could go and get a vaccine and end up not being immunized because they didn't use the right size needle. If you are a plus size person in need of a pap smear or gynecological exam, oftentimes due to the way our bodies are shaped, the practitioner needs to use a longer speculum. I have gone to the gynecologist and not been able to get a pap smear because the doctor did not know to use a longer speculum. I have gone to the doctor, had them try and take my blood pressure, and them not know where in their office the larger blood pressure cuff was, and they quite literally just asked me what my blood pressure normally was. These list of examples like go on and on and on. I have had specialists whose care I desperately needed for even just diagnosis not book initial appointments with me because they had BMI limits on who they would even see for an initial appointment in their office. Not for treating, not for, oh, we have a BMI requirement for a surgery or a procedure or a medication. Quite literally would not even take an initial appointment with me in her office. Like so genuinely, fuck my feelings. I am simply asking for doctors who know how to do their jobs.
Maybe the specialists do not want to treat obese patients because of this? Maybe, just maybe.
As a nurse, I'm sorry this is a thing. It takes 2 seconds to add an alert to the chart to indicate appropriate sized cuff without making a scene.
Remember, the battle against visceral fat is not won overnight. It takes dedication, consistency, and patience. But the rewards are priceless. Improved health, increased energy, and a longer, happier life.
Often we hear contradicting, wildly different perspectives from marginalized groups on the same topic. How do we know who to believe? For example, I am fat, and I believe current healthcare practices and stereotypes about fat people are really harmful. Yet a regular comment I receive is, I'm fat too, and I don't think body shaming, fat shaming, stereotypes about fat people are wrong. And I think we need to look at two things. One, are they actually a part of the group that they are speaking on behalf of? And two, are they centering harm reduction? We need to center people with the lived experience. But what happens when lived experience aligns, but perspectives are still wildly different? That is where part 2 comes into play. Are they centering harm reduction? Because if not, there are likely some biases at play. Harm reduction is never a bad thing. If someone is trying to normalize something that is harmful, does not care that it is harmful, or care to make it less harmful, that's a red flag. And we need to center people who have the most marginalization. We need to be centering people who face the harshest edges of harassment and exile. Because we are not free until they are free. We need to center intersectionality. And finally, in addition to the two things, are they a part of the group and are they centering harm reduction? We need to remember that just because you are a part of that group, it does not mean you will always have the most correct opinion. Centering your experience, especially if it is more privileged, is not generalizable. For example, in the case of fat phobia, which is the example I talked about earlier, just because you are fat and don't get harassed in public or at the doctor does not mean that is not a regular occurrence for others. Be very mindful about the perspectives you are allowing for these very complex topics, and most importantly, that you are centering harm reduction in every single thing that you are doing.
Doing harm reduction about being overweight is a red flag in itself. Claiming it's okay to damage your body and rationalize food addiction is a RF.
Being fat is the harm. Harm reduction in this example is losing weight and continuing to promote having a healthy BMI.
Wait, so they have bias but you don't? Get out of here.
Let's banish visceral fat from our lives and reclaim control of our health. We can defeat this silent killer and live our best lives. Stay healthy and stay happy.